And now for the Citadel, Kevin Higgins, 4 and 7 last year, 5 returning on offense, more on defense with 8. Bart Blanchard will be their quarterback, wide receiver. Andre Roberts over 1,300 yards and 14 touchdowns. And Dan DeHaven was a first-team All-Selection as their offensive lineman.
Yeah, outside of Andre Rogers, the rest of the receiver core will struggle. There's no one behind him. He is a legitimate NFL prospect. He is a really good wideout. I like him. I like the way he plays. He's an awesome talent. Offensive line is going to be fun to watch because they're going to move some defensive players over to the offensive side of the ball, and they have a very solid group as a whole. So the offensive line will be solid. You got Roberts back there. Blanchard's going to have another year to improve. He's a sneaky athlete. He can make some plays in the game, in a run game as well too. Running back is the question. Can they find a running back to take the load and beat a man? That's the biggest question.
DeWitt Jones, the defensive end, had 7.5 stops behind the line of scrimmage. He was a second-team All-Leaguer. And linebacker Jordan Gilmore had 93 tackles for the Citadel.
Well, you look at Jordan Gilmore and Mel Capers. Those two guys are really two big players. Total 156 tackles combined. Those two guys at linebackers. They have 2 studs on the defensive line, like you mentioned, Jones and Reese. Those 2 guys are really good. So D-line, linebacker is fine. Secondary, have a question mark. They have a lot of vets, and so there's a lot of experience, so they're going to be solid. So they hope to improve. They look to improve over last year, but that's the biggest question. They do have some players on defense just got to get all together and come out each and every Saturday.
The Sanford Bulldogs, Pat Sullivan, 6 and 5 last year. He's in his 3rd year entering. 8 on offense, back 6 on defense. D. Taliaferro will be their quarterback. Chris Evans over 1,200 yards, 14 TDs. Jonathan Lowry, the wide receiver, and second-team center John Weber returns with 3 linemen up front.
I like Dustin Taliaferro. I think he's going to be a really good player. He's a real star. This is a young guy that came in for Sanford and played well. He's going to play well again. The running game will go. The offense period will go through running back Chris Evans. I'm sorry. They're going to run the ball. He's a really good player. As Taliaferro gets even more acclimated with the system, I like him a lot. This guy is going to be amazing. Got a veteran offensive line, and all their top wide receivers return. So Sanford is a little bit scary on offense. So I'm telling you guys, watch Dustin Taliaferro. He's going to be a really good player in this league for a long time.
Second-team All-League selection linebacker Bryce Smith, 92 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 5.5 tackles for loss, and 5 picks. And second-team strong safety Andy Davis lead the Bulldogs' defense.
I always like to talk about the battery of a defense, from defensive line, middle linebacker, free safety. Sanford is really strong up that middle. You look at Patrick Hatcher, the defensive tackle, 5.5 sacks last season. You go over to the middle linebacker, you have Bryce Smith, another guy, 92 tackles, 5 interceptions. So he is an athletic linebacker, can get his hands on a lot of balls. And free safety, Thomas Broussard, another really good player. This guy, 5 pass breakups. So the battery of that defense, Sanford's defense, is going to be fine. So they have a real scary defense. They give up 3.1 yards a carry against a rush, 18 points a game. So Sanford is a team that's going to scare people, and they're going to surprise. I like Sanford, being that fly in the ointment, so to speak, as Tim Brando likes to say. But I think Sanford can surprise some teams in this league.
The former Richmond defensive coordinator Russ Huesman takes over the Chattanooga Mocs, which were a mockery last year at 1 and 10, 8 returning on offense, 7 on defense. B.J. Coleman, the Tennessee transfer, will battle 3 others, including Jer Galt. He'll be their running back. Top 2 running backs and top 3 receivers return. Justin Galen, their center, Chris Harr, their left tackle, are back, and T.J. Hurlis. All 5 returning on the offensive line, which is a plus for the Mocs.
Well, the offensive line is a plus, but unfortunately they got to settle on a quarterback. They don't have any guy right now as the #1 listed. They have to find a quarterback. Also, an anemic offense overall. 2.7 yards a carry, only 77 yards rushing the game. That has to improve. But the good thing about it, they do get those running backs back behind that veteran offensive line. So hopefully whatever quarterback they settle on is going to have the luxury of having pass protection, and they're going to be able to open some holes up this year, hopefully, for one of those running backs.
Let's start up front on defense with defensive tackle B.J. Taylor, 6.5 tackle for a loss. Strong safety Tony Swafford is going to move down to linebacker, help out Joseph Thornton there, who is their leading tackler. But J.D. Dothard had 2 interceptions, including 55 tackles at free safety.
B.J. Taylor is a really good player. He's a solid player, the only solid player on that defense. They gave up 37 points a game last season, 60% completion percentage. They have to improve. They have some good players individually on that team, and with a new defensive coordinator, he's going to get those guys in the right position with the right scheme. So they're going to improve this year on defense. But that's the reason. That's the reason why they stunk last year, because they were all over the place and they couldn't produce.
What a sick name. The Catamounts of Western Carolina. Dennis Wagner was 3-9 in his first year. Now he enters his second year. 7 return on offense, 7 on defense. Zach James, their quarterback. Quan Worley, the running back, and Markel Pittman will be the receiver. Can they get it done? Can they get it done with that trio?
Those trio gives that offense a lot of hope. You know, that's 3 good players they have right there. You look at James, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. You know, he has to improve his completion percentage, 56%, but that's going to come with time. He's going to be fine as long as he has his top wide receiver target back in Markel Pittman, 14.3 yards a catch. So he's a dynamite playmaker. He can stretch the defense. They have offensive line depth. They returned 3 starters, but a lot of guys played last season, so that's important. So you're gonna see this offense for Western Carolina get a little bit better because of the continuity and the returning starters.
On three returning starters on the offensive line, which will help. On defense, Adrian McLeod, 100 tackles, 10 tackles for loss. And cornerback Antoine George led the team with 3 interceptions last year. He's back.
Well, the secondary is a strength. You know, I like the secondary. It's his second year in the system overall on that defense. And you look at Matt, the defensive coordinator, Matt Pawlowski. He's going to get those guys going in the right direction. The linebackers at Western Carolina are really awesome. You've mentioned Aaron McLeod, 100 tackles, 10 TFLs. I also look at Chris Collins, 92 tackles and 2 sacks. So if they can get some production out the defensive line, they're going to be fine. But I look for the defensive coordinator to get these guys in the right spot. They improved over last year, but they still have a ways to go on defense. But they do have some pieces in place.
And now for our Southern Football Conference preseason predictions. Let's start out with, let's switch it up. Let's go with Defensive Player of the Year. Who are you taking?
Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go with DJ Smith, linebacker, Appalachian State. I think he's going to be really good. He's always been a real good player. This is the year he finally gets noticed, break out, and be a Defensive Player of the Year out the entire conference.
I like Jacques Roman. He was former Defensive Player of the Year. I think he's going to get it again. Another linebacker on App State. Offensive Player of the Year, who are you taking?
I'm going with wide receiver Andre Roberts out of the Citadel. This guy is a really good playmaker. He can play anywhere in the country regardless of division. He's a real legitimate NFL prospect, a dynamite playmaker for the Citadel Bulldogs.
Let's stay in App State. I'm all over App State this year. Amani Edwards, he could tear defenses up. This guy, not your prototypical NFL player, but college with all these guys rushing and spread offense and the option in this league, he's the best at it. I like Armani Edwards, and now your preseason pick to win the conference.
I'm going to go with Elon. I think the Phoenix are actually going to get it together and win the title outright this year. The biggest key to that prediction is the fact that they get App State at home, and they lost a close one to App State last season in Boone, North Carolina. But I think they're going to win it this year because they get these guys at home. Elon is going to be my pick for the Southern Conference Championship.
Jerry Moore, the great offensive mind. Give him a decent defense. He's going to find a way to win. He's going to find a way to win the league. I like Appalachian State to repeat in the Southern Football Conference. And that's our preview for the SFC. For more FCS previews, visit footballgameplan.com/smallcolleges.